has been issue one for Republicans in the last 4 election cycles. In 2010, it helped them take back the House. In 2014, it was key to adding control of the Senate. And back to work this year after the 2016 vote gave the GOP the White House too? Well, Speaker Paul Ryan was excited and emphatic.
This is just not a matter of us keeping our promise to the American people. This is a rescue mission. We are on a rescue mission to prevent Obamacare from making things even worse.
On Friday, after a stunning setback, that same Paul Ryan announced Republicans are canceling their rescue mission and breaking their promise.
I don't know what else to say other than Obamacare is the law of the land. We did not have quite the votes to replace this law.
Now, politically, a huge embarrassment. Republicans for 7 years were tripping over each other to scream repeal Obamacare, but once given the responsibility to govern, could not settle deep policy differences over how to replace it.
Moving from an opposition party to a governing party comes with growing pains. And, well, we're feeling those growing pains today. I will not sugarcoat this. This is a disappointing day for us. Doing big things is hard.
Doing big things is hard. We started the last conversation. Well, what lesson does the president learn? What lesson does the speaker learn? He could not have been surprised by the difficulty of this. He clearly was surprised he wasn't able to resolve the difficulty of this. What now for him?
Well, this was the first real legislative test for Paul Ryan. Even though he's been speaker since the fall of 2015, remember when John Boehner left, he quote-unquote cleared the barn, got rid of all the difficult things, got rid of big fiscal fights. And 2016 was not really a governing year on Capitol Hill. They put together their election year pamphlet saying how they're going to run. It was the speaker's so-called Better Way agenda that included some of the top line items on how to deal with health reform. This was the first test of trying to put together a coalition in a House that's been very difficult to govern, and he failed at it. So the question is, where does he go from here? One thing is that it's difficult to cut deals without significant buy-in from key factions within your caucus. He thought he did have much of his conference on board. That was not the case. And he wanted to move very quickly. And it's very difficult to move very quickly in such a complicated issue. You really needed time, build time to build consensus, and that clearly didn't happen here.
Well, they thought, clearly, the speaker did, and I think a lot of people around the president as well, that this idea that we have to govern now, we have a responsibility, was enough of a motivating force to get people to say, all right, I'm going to vote for this bill, even though it's got some things that I just can't stomach in it. You mentioned the various people of the caucus, but this is their responsibility. Listen to Speaker Ryan. As he says, he's trying to, the president, we're told, wanted an enemies list. He wanted to have the vote, or at least he wanted the list of the people who said they were going to vote no, so that he could do trademark Trump counterpunching. We're told the speaker said, no. No. I'm mad at them, too. I'm probably more mad at them than you are, Mr. President, but I need to work with these people going forward. Here was his message after, where the speaker was trying to say, people, think about why this happened.
All of us, myself included, we will need time to reflect on how we got to this moment, what we could have done to do it better. But ultimately, this all kind of comes down to a choice. Are all of us willing to give a little to get something done? Are we willing to say yes to the good, to the very good, even if it's not the perfect? Because if we're willing to do that, we still have such an incredible opportunity in front of us.
He's being optimistic there. But the issue here is a moderate Republican from New Jersey and Pennsylvania just has a fundamentally different view about the role of the federal government, whether it's health care, tax reform, and on and on and on, than a Freedom Caucus member from North Carolina or somewhere in the South.
You know, this might sound too obvious to even be a point, but I think one thing that he has learned is that President Trump is not his friend, and he can't really completely trust the White House. And that's important. I mean, it's just instructive to know going forward when you figure out how you play this, right? Loyalty is the most important thing. Okay, I totally stand by Paul Ryan, and everybody at the White House is saying we're going to throw Paul Ryan under the bus. Right. Paul Ryan needs to lead his caucus and stop trying to figure out how to help President Trump. The way to help President Trump is to help himself. He has to figure out what the levers are that he has inside his own caucus and what his levers are with the White House and this president.
Right, the president outsourced writing the bill to a large part. It's not fair to say Ryan wrote the whole bill. Tom Price, the Health and Human Services Secretary, the White House was a part of the negotiations, but they outsourced at least the leadership to Ryan on writing the legislation. And Ryan seemed to outsource back to the president the idea of rounding up the votes, which is traditionally the speaker's job and his operations job. The question is, though, the Freedom Caucus members here, sure, the president's mad at them. Sure, the speaker's mad at them. But they won. They're not going to blink next time, are they?
Probably not, but I think if the House had passed the bill, they also would have won in a respect because it would have emboldened them, because it was because of them. So if you talk to some Republicans on the Hill and even at the White House, they believe that this, it was a good moment, I guess, for the Freedom Caucus, but it did like splinter them. They couldn't deliver something. So they at some point need to find a win or find something, or they will anger this president in a huge degree. All of them stood with the president. These are all from Trump districts. Now there is a test to see, who people like more, the member of Congress or the president. But outside groups, I think, is something that, we haven't talked about a lot this morning, but the outside groups of Heritage, Club for Growth, everyone else.
All
that was
said no to the new Republican
They said no
president.
to the new Republican president. So it was very easy if you're Mark Meadows or someone in his group to vote against this because you have the backing back home.
So,
to me, I think the next thing to watch coming forward is here what the president does to them, because he's furious at them.
Well, that's a key question, because you can have the if at first you don't succeed, try again in the Republican family, or listen to Senator Lindsey Graham here, home in his state, South Carolina, yesterday, saying maybe the president and maybe people in Congress want to get things done, should try something else.
Let me tell you about health care. I don't think one party is going to be able to fix this by themselves. So, here's what I think should happen next. I think the president should reach out to Democrats. I should reach out to Democrats. And we should say, let's take a shot at doing this together, because it ain't working at doing by ourselves. How about that? All right.
How about that? I have some dusty books on a shelf somewhere that talk about a day and an age in Washington where there was bipartisanship, but they're kind of dusty.
Yeah, they are very dusty. Look, one-party rule is very difficult in Washington. I mean, after the 2004 elections, when Republicans swept into power, they bungled their opportunity at one-party rule, and they lost the House and the Senate in 2006. In 2009, after the Democrats had a 60-seat majority at one point in the Senate before Scott Brown's win in 2010, they lost the House the next year because of the way they handled Obamacare. They got a lot done because they had huge majorities, but they were in a circular firing squad the whole time. That's what we're seeing again. It's so hard to keep one party united if you don't try to reach across the aisle. Oftentimes, divided government works better.
Well, we'll see if the president's willing to make that effort right now, because the Democrats are not going to go first. They see him at around 40%, maybe even below that. It's going to have to be the president's initiative. Everybody sit tight. Up next, the president has a simple answer when challenged on his facts. I'm president, and you're not.